And good evening, everybody. Welcome on into the Dragon's Den for yet another semi-impromptu stream. Welcome on in. Let's see, Outer's Danger Ding, Kit Skyfire, Timor. Hey, how's it going, my friend? So welcome on back, everybody. As you can tell, we still have the black box up here on the workbench. Um, so I needed to print out some parts in order to complete hanging the bed, basically, and getting everything aligned for the bed. So I did print those parts out over Sunday. Had a couple of part failures, only to come to realize that it was printing, we'll say, for whatever reason, when I brought the models in, they were printing like this with the tab side down versus flipped over with the tab side up. So just be aware there are a couple of files that I have brought in from the STLs that are oriented wrong. So definitely check that just to make sure that the parts are going to be printing in a correct orientation that you'll get a 60. So just something to keep an eye on. Um, Also, I did find that I happened to sit down and I looked over and the bed was all cattywampus. Right now, we've got a very nice, bring you guys down here, a very nice flat level bed. The bed was all kind of cattywampus. And it's because, in my rush, I laid out and I made the comment of, okay, according to the diagrams here, the 15 mil base, which would be the thicker one, would have the chamfered ring, 12 millimeter would have the flat ring. And then looking at this piece for the trident, it shows the pin mount, the chamfered mount, and then the flat mount. Well, that's great because when you do the pin, the chamfered, and the flat mount on this system, it comes out cattywampus. So what I've got is the pin mount, the flat surface mount. This is the 12 millimeter in the back, right? And then on the one off, this is the 15 millimeter thick with the chamfer. And this makes everything flat. Okay. So I'm not sure why or what's off or what have you, but this is the way it works and everything is flat. The other thing I did was I went in and used the printed spacers to make sure that these were all spaced right. So not only is it flat, but it actually sits in here square to the frame. Yes, cattywampus, a six-legged mountain lion. There you go. So that is all squared away and that's good. The belts here are just loosely sitting in there. I was trying to keep them off the table. That's all there is to it. So where we left off, the other thing I did was I revalidated the spacing with my printed parts, and the spacing was slightly off, so I did get that fixed. Let me see. Which one was it? The right side was a little off. Or no, the right side was spot on. The left side was a little off. So this would be the right gap. This would be the left gap, which is a little bit bigger. And then that cleared up some of the spacing issues I had here. And then once again, I used um, these spacers, which 31 and a half, which got the bed set right on this end. So having the spacers definitely helps getting everything properly lined up. Okay. And after we got all the bed stuff good and valid. That's where I also needed these two spacers, which will space out the front edge between the front edge of the bed and the front 40/40 as we tighten down our front edges. So these were needed before we started tightening everything down to keep the bed frame itself from. Hey, Shawnell, how's it going? And so that's kind of where we left off is on page 42 here. We have the bed frame. It is sitting in here on the white blocks. These are just spacers, and it is sitting flush on all four corners, which is good. If one of the corners was lifted, that means our bed frame has a twist or skew to it. But they're all sitting nicely. So our bed was built flat, our bed frame was built flat, and it stayed flat. We have our carriage drop down, and we've got the four bolts in this carriage, but it is loose. So there is some play side to side right now in the whole bed frame because it's loose. And that's where we've left it is move the blue painter's tape. We slid the MGN12 cartridge or truck or cart down and aligned it and put in the four M3 by 50 socket head cap screws. And that's where we got to on the left. Hey, Shawnell, welcome on in. And I wanted to do a short stream today to get done with this piece because this needs to come back off the table and we'll prep for the Enraged Rabbit carrot feeder stream. Got parts I needed for that printed out. So we've got the two coupler blocks, one that fixed the bad printed part, another one that fixes the one that I cracked. And then these are all the numbers for the buffer lane. Decided to definitely do these in the hot pink since the buffer lanes themselves are printed in blue. So these would. So now we're going to do the front. This is where these little blocks come into play. So the connection is aligned to provide optimal torque on the bed frame, moving the z-axis up and down without causing the bed tilt or skew during use. Keep the assembled bed frame flush with the printed alignment blocks, all four corners, one's down here, while you fully tighten the four socket head. Careful to not over tighten screws going into the carriage. Over tightening of the bearing race inside the MG12. Install the printed left Z-axis bed frame installation tool. Front extrusion. Now we telling us to go ahead and tighten the ones in the back. But I wanted to make sure to have these ones in the front as well as I went to go tighten these, just so it doesn't skew or make anything um, cattywampus, out of whack, etc. I'm going to need a ball head driver for this because I want to make sure that I'm getting in there straight and my other one's just. I'm just tightening these down with a little bit of torque. I'm not trying, like I said, to ugga the heck out of these. I need them snug. This will be maintenance item when we go and and check every few hours, few hundred hours, hopefully, make sure that our trucks are still nice and tight. Got this tightened in the back. We've got our blocks in the front. Need this for the other printed left Z-axis frame, and got both of these in place. Gonna remove the painter's tape. If we had it here, we didn't have painter's tape. We were using a bump stop, and we use may need to slide the Z-axis cartridge. Let me read through this. Slide the MGN12 cartridge until it lines up with the Z bracket. May need to slide the Z-axis bracket front, forward, and back, left or right, until it's flush against the front of the rail cart. Then secure it with two M3 by 10s in the front and then two M3 by 35s back. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get all four set up and ready. Well, all four screws on both sides set up and ready before I start tightening them down. Once again, to try and keep from moving that frame left or right and keeping it square. I need M3 by 10. M3 by 45, or excuse me, M3 by 35. We're going to remove the bump stop. And here, let me pick this up and rotate it around 180 degrees so it's facing you. See how many of the parts I'm going to, parts being the printed part. I told you how beefy this frame is because it's pretty darn beefy. We've got some heft and some mass already. Okay, so printed part between the frame and the 4040. So I'm just pushing it all the way forward up against the linear rail. Okay, so let me, this is what we've got. There's a little bit of space in it, but that's going to be taken up when we start to line these up. And this printed piece just slides in between the frame and the 4040 and one on each side. We've got both of those in place, so that's going to help keep the frame side to side. Now we've got a little bit of play. Guess I'll work on this. We've got a little play in these side to side, and if we need to, we can slide these around to line up with the faces of the trucks. So remove our stop and slide this down a bit. Of course, it's fouling on our printed piece, so push this over, and we're going to try and get it lined up with our holes here. And you gotta be careful because you don't want your truck to slide down and off. We're going to try and get this to line up. That one's lined up. Got the front two M3x10s are going to go in. Keep going. There we go. So the M3x10s are lining up. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not tightening these down just yet. I'm just getting them in place. Put our M3x35s in. Those started in the truck. Hey, zombie, how's it going? Yeah, I'm kind of doing a zombie thing and just streaming all the time. Okay, so once again, these aren't fully tightened. They're just in there somewhat snug. I'm going to take this bumper and put it all the way at the top now, since we don't have a bump stop at the top. Bring my other 4 screws over here. And once again, we'll slide this down, move that printed part out just enough to let the carriage slide down. And seeing about where we are over here, this metallic part of the truck will be right close to the bottom. Put in our M3x10. That's lining up. Yeah, so I am streaming just to get this part of the section done. And then I will pull it down and we'll reset and get things ready for the Enraged Rabbit carrot feeder build tomorrow. And then call the stream, just because this is simply here to try and get this part of the build done. I was trying to do 1 stream per chapter for the black box, and we got done around 1 in doing the Z-axis motion, which was the actual drive bar, the Z motor, and the pulleys on that go underneath the printer. And then everybody's like, no, keep going, keep going. So then we did the Z bed frame, the Z bed, and we ran out of time. So we just need to finish this up. So what I'm going to do now is start to tighten this down. And just like any of our others, we're going to do the crossing pattern. Tighten these down. Once again, we're not trying to really crank down on these, which would cause us to deform the carriages. We're just trying to get everything nice and snug, fully aligned. Now I'm going to come back and I'm going to make sure that all 4 of these are tight in the peanuts. And by the way, Zombie, I hope you're feeling better. This is going to make everything nice and snug and rigid. We can remove our spacers side. Now we still need to leave the blocks down here at the bottom. We haven't done anything with those. Make sure that all the bed frame blocks are nice and flush. We never took any weight off of these. We moved the trucks and then we lined this up to side so we didn't skew our frame. Everything's nice and tight. So we did both of these. Move the alignment tools. Um, then belts and tensioning. So we're going to start with one side of the machine. Okay, and the goal is to keep, when we go to put this in and tension it up, we don't want to lift it off these blocks. We want to keep all of them still on the blocks. I'm going to go ahead and pull this belt out. So our belts were facing down, and we're going to want to take this, and it's going to go up in this slot right here. So on this side, it's easy. It's open. On the other side, it was a little more of a pain in the butt because we're going between the printed part and another thin printed part piece that connects to the truck. But we want to make sure that this comes down, um, gets in the grooves of our tooth pulley. And when we come up, we want to and bend this tip a little bit to try and get it used to bending, right? Bring us back up here. And remember, we've got the two pulleys, a higher one and a lower one. We want to come up on the side of the higher one here. And because we've sort of pre-bent our belt a little bit, when we get to the top and we keep pushing, it should go ahead and start wrapping itself around that pulley. And it'll start working its way across the top of the printed part. Should come down the other side of the other without too much ado pain. There we go. And go just like that. So at the top, we do want to make sure that the teeth on the belt are properly meshed. Goes the belt routing into this gap. And then at the top, once again, it comes up over the top pulley and then over the lower pulley and going to come down. We want to once again make sure that this is meshing in the pulley all the way around. And if we need to, now's a good time to slightly rotate this by hand to make sure that we're lining up in the grooves of the pulley. Everything's good. This is where our tensioning mechanism is going to go. So this is what you're seeing inside that pulley. So if you're having difficulty feeding the belt through, here's a view of how it's going to go. Like I said, it helps to bend over the first few teeth, just create a little bend or curl up here. And that will help once you hit the top of the printed part for it to start curl over on it. Hey Aaron, how's it going? Welcome on in. After the belt is properly through the idler assembly, which it is, install the belt into the Z-axis print belt tensioner left, part 2. Um, and it'll be the one. So it's going to feed in here. Give me a sec. I'm just trying to read through. So I believe what we want is, so the tensioner block, you'll notice, has 2 grooves in it. So your belt's going to go down in this groove. These 2 grooves on the side is where you're going to have long M4 bolts coming down, and that's what you're going to use to tension your belts. So these need to be on this front edge, outer edge, to line up with our threaded insert. So that's how you're going to tell which of these goes on which side, because if you line this one up that way, the teeth of the belt would be on that side where the teeth are on side facing me. That's how you can tell which is which. So we'll take this and put it into our block, set it all the way in there so it lines up with the grooves, and push that belt in. And if you need to, use a flathead screwdriver to make sure that you get the belt fully inserted. Hey Nick, how's it going? So Aaron, how are you doing? How's the was it a Trident rebuild you were working on, right? Bottom end of this belt giving me fits. Okay. Belt all the way in there nicely. Now we're going to come into the side here like we did on the other blocks and put in some M3 by 6 set screws. Now, once again, this talks about using um, thread locker, and we should not be using thread locker on printed parts unless, like it says here, at least this part has the caveat of if the material you chose to print the tensioner blocks can withstand thread locker without compromising the strength, then use it. Don't bother, just don't use it. You're going into a printed part, and even though these are polycarbonate carbon fiber parts, You don't want to take the chance of compromising this part because it is the tensioning mechanism on the belt. And if that fails and the belt strips out, you're going to crash your bed. Because remember, we're going to have counterweights to help alleviate the weight of the bed and bed frame, and you do not want your bed to crash on you. Oh, that's a wife question. Well, I was just asking if your rebuild was done because I thought you were rebuilding it. Was your wife that was rebuilding it? Hey, Royal Nomi, welcome in. Remember, we're just going to tighten this down until we see the belt kind of deform in the belt part here, and that's how we know that we've got the set screw up against the side of the belt. Okay, yeah, you're rebuilding. You're working on wiring it right now and custom doing it all. Okay, I'm doing good, Royal Nomi. Like I said, we're just trying to. We ran into another section of the manual. I was trying to keep to a one stream per manual section, and everybody talked me into going a little bit longer Saturday. So now I'm kind of wanting to get this section done. So I have to take this off and get ready for the Enraged Rabbit Carrot Feeder stream tomorrow. And then this way, when we come back on Saturday, we're ready to go into section 4 and not blending over anymore. Try and keep to one section. And as you can see, this block is just going to go down in there. Pretty decent little friction fit right now. It will pull out, of course. And we'll add some N4 bolts here. Once again, slide the print axis in, and then we're going to use some M4 by 40 bolts and M4 washers. Washers. Washers out. And the M4 by 40. Actually, nail polish has acetone in it, and that's what's causing the damage to your part is the acetone. M4 washer and our M4 bolt. They should slide right down, and then we'll use our going to be M3 driver. And once again, we're going to tension this just until the belt starts to tighten, but we don't want to lift these off the blocks. So definitely feel and make sure you're not lifting this off the block when you're doing this. All right, Pete. Is it something you need a response on stream or something I can look at after? All right, I'll take a look at it after. And there's a little bit of, like a slight bit of wiggle and play now. So got a little bit of tension there. I'm going to let these off. See if we can get our play back out. Yeah, that is why your nail polishes smell so bad is the acetone. Good there. Grab some coffee. And we're going to turn this around so that we're facing, um, so that you can see me do the next one. So, just put my bolts and stuff over here. The same thing, the belt comes down. We make sure that it loops and lines up with the um, pulley at the bottom, comes up between the two printed parts here in the carriage, um, and then around our pulleys, we'll put our belt and the belt tensioning mechanism here. Same thing, we go all the way down to the bottom. We want to make sure and keep our belts same length. So we cut them to the same length, and we want to make sure that they're going into the blocks at the same length so that they should have the same relative tension put on them. We're going to need to put our M3 by 6 set screws in. And once again, I printed my parts out of polycarbonate carbon fiber, so I should be good with the acetone, but I don't want to chance it if I don't have to. Like you'll remember when I did Bubblegum Dragon for Free Heathen, we used polycarbonate ABS blend, and we did use some Loctite through some parts, but we did it very, very sparingly. And we tried to make sure that we didn't have a lot of excess as we were pushing the screw through the part. And we tried to be pretty careful and line the screws up without running it into the part. And you'll see the couple of places that I did apply some Loctite. I ran the screw fully through the part and then added Loctite to the very tip of the screw to reduce the chance of having a lot of Loctite right next to the 3D printed part. Put that cartridge in there. We're going to M4 by 40 with a washer that goes on each side. You have all the AC wiring done. Okay, that's like 6 wires. Maybe a few more if you're using a Raspberry Pi and a second power supply. But I get it. Progress, right? It's progress. All right, so there we go. We've got our belts in place. There's a little bit of tension on them, but they are not tensioned the same. So I'm going to just try and get that feel same. Go. Right, the machine with the right side facing you, and basically go through and do the same thing again. Necessary and loosen the set screws. You will want to use the print Z-axis pulleys. Yeah, definitely keep these and always use these. Drop the bed down on here if you ever have to loosen your belts or any of the pulleys and stuff. Yeah, and if you need to align these belts, you would have to undo the set screw and move things around. I think our belts are all pulleys, or at least what it felt like. So should be good there. All everything that we did. Set screws, belt. The 4 by 40 socket heads cap screws through washer. Equally turn each one to remove belt but not parts. Need to tension both of the Z belts using the following method. Begin with equally tightening the M4 by 40 socket head cap screw going through the printed Z-axis belt tension one side until you reach the Z-axis. Bed frame will have lifted up side where the belt is tensioned. Need to equally tighten opposite side of the opposing. Turn the drive by hand to lower the bed frame back onto the blocks. continuing going back and forth, tensioning and flushing until flush with the frame alignment blocks. One seems too loose and equally, or yes, so we're just playing with the tension. Had a little bit of a hey, Creatrix Brit, how are you doing? Hope you are doing well. Whoops. These feel a lot tighter than these do as far as the back and flatness goes. I think what I actually need to do need to loosen set screws. One there. Whoops. Down. All four. What you see me doing is the tension's still the same, but I've loosened up the pulley in an attempt to get the whatever slack difference between the front and the back changed. Now I've retightened the pulley. And things are back to normal. So there we go. We are good. We still have plenty of adjustment to go on both sides. That's good. It's achieved. Turn the left shaft to raise the bed and then remove all four of the printed leveling blocks. Okay, easier said than done. You're good to let that go all the way down to the bottom. And that's it. That's all for this section of the manual. And this is what I wanted to work on getting done tonight so that when we come back on Friday, we'll be able to go into the next section, which will be section 4. This will be the XY motion section. Several parts, a lot of parts, screws, quite a few printed parts. This is definitely going to be a Saturday stream, but this is setting up basically the X carriage, the X rail, and then getting it all on the, getting it mounted between the X gantry and the Y gantry and belting it the whole 9 yards. So this is going to be a long stream on Saturday to get this one. Oh yeah. And that part right here, this is actually the one of our first metal parts that we'll be using. And yes, this is a chunky printer, Hybrid Robotics, and this plate itself is, a couple 3 pounds in and of itself added on to this frame. So this frame is already pretty darn hefty as it stands today. I will move this down, and I don't know what I just knocked off of my. We figure out what I just knocked over. Good news, it wasn't anything off the table, off of the something off of a stack underneath the table. Okay. Yeah, so this piece here, I believe, is is not a printed part. I think that's the first metal part. Yeah, CNC X plate. Yeah, we'll be getting into some of the CNC metal parts that'll make up the X gantry next week. So what we'll do is we'll take all of our printed parts that we've been using for our um, alignment tools, all of our jigs and stuff like that, and we're just going to toss them in here. I've been trying to keep them so far in case I have to take some things back apart. We'll always have the printed tools. Hey, Mayhem, how's it going? We've been working on the black box again, just doing a little bit of, I'll say, catching up. We needed to finish mounting the heated bed to the system. So we've got the heated bed and frame now joined to the printer base itself, and the Z-axis belts are run. So we're good there. And that's what I wanted to get done for stream tonight, because going into next week, we will be, or next week, into Saturday, we'll be going into the X gantry system. And that'll be the interesting part, because there we're going to basically, let me see if I can. So let me go full display real fast. So on this, section 1 was the main frame of the printer. Section 2 was the the Z-axis motion system. So that is the linear rod or shaft that goes all the way through. We have one motor that is running gear reduction set and pulleys, and then pulleys on each side that are running the belts to lift the bed up. Okay. Um, then section 3 was building the bed platform and mounting our bed using a Mandala Roseworks um, kinematic, like match machine kinematic bed mount system. And so that's installed. Now we still haven't done any of the wiring for the bed. So we haven't even soldered in the fuse or anything like that yet. That's going to come later on as we get down into the electronics, I'm assuming. But this is where we've gotten to so far. Now the next up is going to be the XY axis. And as you can see here, the printer's starting to get filled out. So we're going to have the X-axis mount here with all the additional pieces added in for the actual X carriage. And we'll run the belts for the Y and the X. Get everything in place. Next installment, which will be Saturday. Um, so the Voron kits. 3 of my Vorons have been basically self-sourced, with most of the parts coming from Tensor 3D and KB 3D. So the frames, give me a second here. So Fay Dragon, I won the printed parts at Rocky Mountain last year, and I bought some B stock frames for a 2.4 and a Trident, which is Iron Dragon over here in the corner, from Tensor 3D. They're B stock because they had a couple of marrings in the anodization, and they also used M6 screws versus M5 screws to do all the blind joints. And your 2020 nuts were a little loose in them, but easy enough to work around. Um, this is an LDO kit. I worked with LDO to get this kit at a discount. It was shipped from Fabrico, but an LDO kit was shipped from Fabrico. The Trident 350 that's down here under these boxes, that was a DFH kit. And that is a kit of kits. That frame is a powder coated white frame. So that's um, most likely from DLL PDF on this white frame back here. And then this box up is all stuff for the black box. Um, the build I did for Chewy, his 2.4 build, I think was a Tensor 3D frame. And then just about everything else, the majority of everything else, he said he sourced from KB3D, or I source parts from KB3D for it. So yeah, anybody that sells a LDO kit, definitely LDO kits. They're, you know, chef's kiss type kits. They've got a lot of Gucci to them. Uh, the Kyber Dragon, which is this one I'm pointing to right here with the lights on, um, it comes with the lights. It comes with some added um, boards that make your wiring easier. All the wires are pre-crimped. You got a full pre-crimped wire harness. Um, yeah, it's just got a lot of nicety. The only thing that's been added to Kyber Dragon was I added the titanium backers and I made it a tap with an SB2209. Or no, I take that back. That doesn't have an SB2209. That is the two board tool head board that uses all the drag chains. And when anything in the drag chains fail, I will be switching that over to a. But right now, it just didn't make sense. But personal preference, I would say use my affiliate link, which you can see right above your post in chat. Um, and that will get you, well, that's a BlackBox affiliate link. But there's another affiliate link here. Use that link. It doesn't cost you any extra. All it does is it provides a little bit back to me on the back end as basically some KB points that I can use, offset some of my costs down the road as I get more and more stuff from them. So it doesn't cost you any more. It does feed into the channel a bit because he is a channel sponsor. He's my only main channel sponsor here. Um, yeah, there's a lot. It's like you can get LDO kit from KB3D, Fabrico, West 3D. Like I said, my preference would be use my affiliate link, get things from KB3D. If you use that link I just posted, you'll get a really cool sticker. Things working. You'll get a really cool sticker that says, I made this thing with parts from KB3D in support of Digital Dragon 72. Always cool if you can do that. And it also shows KB3D that, people are seeing all the stuff that I'm using in my builds, and he can track how much of that comes back as orders and how much support I'm getting. So it's pretty good. It's great. But like I said, do love my KB3D. I do like supporting them. They're another small business. Um, and they've done great by me. Um, these are my linear shafts. So while we're here, give me 1 second and I will pull our IRC show you that. So this is our main enraged rabbit carrot feeder. I've got wiring sticking out here because I haven't done any of the wiring yet. We were to the point where it starts to tell us to run the wires from the selector here around through the cable chain, but the servo wire isn't long enough to go all the way through the cable chain. So I'm going to have to extend this wire at a minimum. This wire is going to the encoder and was pre-crimped on both ends. So my intent is to take my servo wire and extend it out to match this length. And then if I need to cut and crimp them shorter, I will. But I am going to a local board, and that local board will be a Big Tree Tech MMB board that will be mounted on the Enraged Rabbit cottontail, which is the buffer system that's going to mount to the back of this. That's what we're going to focus on the next stream. So let me grab this. So this is the Enraged Rabbit cottontail. I can get it to line up here. And so these ends right here will mount to the underside of the extrusion. They're going to mount right down here. We do have the option to put our LEDs on here to show us which lane is active, and I'm sure some type of indicator as to if there's any issues or problems that are going on. The color scheme for this is pop pink and pop blue ASA, and that matches the colors that we used on, I don't know what we're going to call it, Cotton Candy Dragon or whatever, on our 350 Trident sitting down here in the corner. So this is a 350 by 350 by 270 Trident build sitting here in the corner that, like I said, the big box that has the rest of the parts for BlackBox is sitting on. We'll get that out possibly Thursday, when we get close to being able to say, okay, this is now fully assembled to this and we're ready to go. Now, before we get there, a couple of things needed to happen on this. One, we need to take our lane indicator tabs um, and put those. There will be one along the front and one along the back edge because these do get loaded from the back or underneath. We'll need to basically take this apart and start building it one at a time across the back because our couplers are all attached with end stops. We've got two more to do on the last couplers. And whoops. And these couplers will go right into the back of the ECAS fittings in the back here. They'll line up side to side between each one of these. So the couplers will sit right in these gaps here. And then on the edge over here is where our Big Tree Tech board. Hey, Lucas Player, how's it going? So yeah, this is kind of how things go. And there will be a M8 or M3 by 8 screw that goes at this point, and one on the back set that will lock all of these in and make this one big solid piece. So yeah, there's quite a bit more to go on this, but once we get it done, it's going to be pretty cool, I think. It's going to be pretty cool once we get it all done. We should get, hopefully, most of this assembled on stream tomorrow. And then by Thursday, we should be doing wiring and trying to figure out how we're going to mount it on our printer. Yeah. And I've seen things where basically, um, actually, let me do this. Let me put that there. Come back to the main screen. So I have seen what people have done is you've got mounting feet on here, and they just run two parallel um, 2020 extrusions and mount the Enraged Rabbit carrot feeder right across the top of their printer. So I need to figure out those mounts because I know there's some printed standoffs that would mount to the top edge, the top 2020 on each side. You would run the 2020 long uh, runners across it, and then your carrot feeder mounts right on top. And then what you would do is um, a lot of people when they do that will then have their tubes come in from the top. So I could drill a hole in the top panel similar to what I did to the back panel of this one, and I've got some silicone grommets. So you drill the hole, you put in the silicone grommet to protect the PTFE tube, and then the PTFE tube will come out of the selector and right through a top, I'll say front center mounted, or top center mounted, or not mounted, but top center um, PTFE, or a hole that the PTFE tube will go down and into the printer. And it would probably work better. I don't know, it doesn't matter. It's going to go on this Trident here. And then I do have the most of the parts to build two of these. So I've got a second kit to do an upgrade from a Enraged Rabbit Carrot Feeder 1.1 to the V2. So I'll build another one. I just need to figure out what printer I want to put it on so I can match the color scheme. Right? It may go on both my Tridents, or it may go on one of the 2.4s. I don't know. I haven't made my mind up yet. Yeah, that was a really cool sticker, Blue Dude, and it took me completely by surprise. I did not know those stickers were coming until I used that link and ordered something for myself and got one of those stickers. So it was kind of neat. And Zombie has a link as well, and I believe he's got a customized sticker as well. Yeah, the FISEC kits and the FormBot kits, most of the kits are getting better. Um, I used a FormBot kit for the Micron build, and the Micron build's downstairs, sitting on the dining room table, churning out maker coins for Remurf. And then I've got a salad fork downstairs as well, which is a shrunken trident using 1515 extrusion, and that is printing pretty darn well as well. So once again, so there's a 7. This number is going to slide right into a slot up here on the top, and they've got little tabs, and these tabs will go in and lock in place. And unfortunately, no, this one's right. So yeah, this tab will slide in. Should slide in. They're fairly tight. I'll have to. We got to get the tab in, and I'll line up all the tabs on the back here. And then, like I said, once again, once it's mounted on here, because in the gap between each thing, we've got these little standoffs here. And this side will stay on those standoffs, and then there's holes on the other leg that line up with this one. So it really locks everything in, but it has to be built lane by lane across it. So that's really tight. I'm gonna have to try and figure out how to get that in there gently. We'll have all of our little locking tabs that we need to put in here. And these will just help us troubleshooting and maintenance. And as we're loading things up, we know that we loaded color X in lane, 4 versus lane 7. And that's how you'll set your slicer up as well. Now we are also going. So the Trident kit that we bought comes with a mini 128/64 display, and I am going to put a DSI display on it that will allow us to run clipper screen. And there is a Happy Hair clipper screen add-in that will let us manage the Enraged Rabbit carrot feeder a little bit better. Yeah, these are real tight. That's going to be fun to get those lined up and in there. But yeah, I'll work on getting those in there before stream tomorrow. Um, yeah, once we get this part attached to this part, it'll become a little bit easier. And then also, let's come back over here and look at the full screen. So looking at the full screen, this is kind of the wiring seam. So we'll have a servo, and that's what's actually going to flip the drive gear down onto the tool block and compress the tool block so that it can drive the filament. The encoder is at the front edge of the selector and can tell that there is filament being moved through it, okay, and which lane it's in. The LEDs give you a visual indicator of which lane is active, or potentially some type of flashing thing to let you know that there's an error with the lane. You'll have your pre-gate sensors, and these are optional. These are all of those, we'll call them filament detection sensors that will get mounted on the Enraged Rabbit cottontail itself. Okay? So you'll have sensors on the cottontail that says a lane is loaded, and the filament is then loaded up into the cart. We'll also have sensors in the tool head before the extruder gear and between the extruder gear and the actual physical hot end that will be able to give us indication of where the um, filament is within the tool head as well. And those will go back to the main controller board, or in our case, to the cam. We'll have the selector end stop. That's the end stop that tells the selector where it's at, side to side on the Enraged Rabbit carrier. We have the selector motor and the gear motor that does the driving. The selector motor, of course, moves the selector side to side. The gear motor is going to move the filament towards the tool head or not. We'll have a USB connector. That's what we'll use to install the CAN bus, or the catapult software, and then clipper onto this board. But here is basically your filament path. So you're going to come off the individual spools, and you'll go into your buffer system through your block. So in this case, we're going to come up from the bottom into the buffer wheel and around the buffer wheel. And I think we'll do 1 or 2 loops. And then we come out the front of our buffer block into the back of the enraged rabbit carrot feeder. And when that lane is selected, it will pull the filament through and then down to the tool head. So this is how this flow basically undead shrub borer. Well, the difference is the undead shrub borer has a hard time finishing projects where I actually get them done and they print. I have a couple that don't print great that I need to spend some time, like the Ender XY, and get that back on the bench and spend some time tuning it in before it finds its final home. But yeah, this is basic tool pathing. So you come off the spool, you go into some type of buffer system, then you go into your MMU, regardless of what type of MMU that is, whether it's a enraged rabbit carrot feeder, an MMU 2 or 3 running on a Prusa, a trad rack, muff, you name it. And then it goes into the tool. And you'll notice here in this drawing, there's the 2020 horizontal bars that the buffer system would sit on. So like I said, I just need to find the mounting of these and then figure out what my length would be. And I'm sure that that's somewhere. I just need to find probably on the Discord or don't think it's in the GitHub. I don't think the actual printer mounts are here. They may be. But you see right here how it's kind of mounted on the top with these cross beams. So the ERCFA itself is mounted on the cross beams. The cottontail is mounted to the ERCFA. And like I said, there is a clipper screen for happy hair we can add that we will add. Um, so we're still in the build phase, and then we'll get the installation, basic commands, setup calibration, and calibrating of any MMU is the biggest issue that people have with multi-material. That is why the Bamboo Labs AMS and the AMS Lite have hit the ground running and has been such a game changer because all of that calibration has been taken care of or is being done using software and systems. So it is the closest MMU to being just load and go, right? But every other MMU, an open source MMU like the ERCFA, which you can mount on any flipper based printer, it does not have to be a Voron. I can put this on the Annex Engineering K3. I can put it on the Ender XY. I can mount it on a Ender or an Ender Wire. It doesn't matter. These can be run on any clipper based printer. Same thing with a trad rack. It is designed by Annex Engineering. You can run a trad rack on any clipper based printer, right? It's just their instructions are geared more towards their printer and their printer ecosystem. Speaking about trad rack, we are going to build a trad rack on this channel. I have a built trad rack. It has never been operational though, because I hadn't built the K3 yet, and I knew I wanted to build a K3. K3's done, but we're going to rebuild the trad rack because my trad rack was built during the closed beta, and they had the open beta out, and as of today, I got an email saying that release candidate 1 is available. So we will be reprinting the parts so it matches the color scheme of the Annex Engineering K3, and we will be rebuilding the trad rack in the near future, probably after between Remurf and Murph. So what I wanted to look here was just to see if there was anything in the guides as far as installation. And this looks like it's just the Happy Hair installation. Happy Hair. Let me go to, that's what is, I went to Happy Hair and not um, IRCFA link. That would be why it was. Zombies are kind of done. Just don't look at the open electronics wiring bay and everything. Yep. So we built the Enraged Rabbit Filametrics, which is the filament cutter, when we built the main printer, because I wanted to make sure I didn't want to rebuild the or build the tool head twice. Rather than building a stock stealth burner and then changing it to all these printed parts, we went ahead and just built it this way. So we do have the filament cutting lever in place already that will cut the filament. And this is an option that gets you around doing tip, which is the other thing that's very critical on an MMU is getting well-formed tips because that helps with the entrance and exit of your filament into the tool head and other parts of your MMU setup. Now, the Prusa MMU2 and MMU3 does have a filament cutter. It's not in the tool head, it's at the MMU itself, where things like the Bamboo Lab A1 has the filament cutter at the tool head. What it's going to do is it's going to cut the filament right between the tool head and the extruder. So you'll get a nice clean cut here, retract it back, put in the new filament and do a purge, and it will purge the filament that's left down in. So that way you get a good, nice tip. It's not going to give you any problem when you're trying to do your loads and it can create more waste in your purge, but that's why you have purge buckets or purge to infill or what have you. So let me go to the main IRCFA. And once again, we've got the Enraged Rabbit carrot feeder, the Enraged Rabbit cottontail, which is the buffer system. Exactly, Stephen Poole. The ERF, the Enraged Rabbit Filametrics toolhead cutter. Then there's the toolhead sensor modifications. And you can go with no toolhead sensor, one, either before the extruder or between the extruder and the hot end, or two, and we went with two in our tool heads. Firmware, the documentation, and, this just kind of gives you an, an overview of IRCFA, Cottontail, Filametrics itself, tool head sensor mod. There is a purge system in the works, so hopefully that happens soon. Um, this is that clipper screen. If it has a better or a larger, there we go. This would give you an updated clipper screen where you would actually see all the lanes that you have configured for your Enraged Rabbit carrot feeder. and what color is or what lane is active and what color it is. Yeah, just like bamboos. You can check gate status and all that good stuff. This will be a nice thing. Manual for building it, materials, the CAD. Yeah, I'm still not seeing anywhere where it talks about actual, like, how do you mount it on the print. That's what I was looking for, is how to physically mount it on a printer. So that must be, there's nothing in the SCLs as far as, uh-oh, oh, oh, this might be it. Yeah, that would be it, I think. That's just mounting it though to us, you know. All right, I'll look and I'll try and find it. I'm sure I can find it somewhere. Yeah, like I said, the biggest thing is tuning your your load lengths, tuning your tips, and if you go with a Filomatrix cutting tool head, which will work with the 1.1, I understand, um, it makes life easier. So you don't have to worry about getting good tips on your filament, but rather um, just focusing on, we'll call it the ramming length, to get it to your extruder and then from your extruder into the actual tool head itself. Um, there's the thumper block. I don't know. I'll find mounts for it one way or the other. Not sure if there are mounts in here or not. But honestly, that's all I had for tonight. I did not want to get into this tonight. This is a tomorrow stream for doing the Enraged Rabbit carrot feeder. The point of this stream was merely finishing up section 3 of the black box build and get the bed, the Oh, the DIY heated bed section of Blackbox done today, which now the next section up is section 4, which is the XY motion system. So that's where we'll start building the X carriage, the X gantry, mounting that to the Y rails, and then running the belts and getting the full XY motion system. So that's the next stream for Blackbox, which will be on Saturday, barring any issue. And the nice thing is that's a Saturday stream, so we can run till it's done. That may be a long day. So we'll either run till it's done or run till I run out of steam, call the stream, and then we may finish it up on Friday or another Monday stream. Proxy X5X SA, so 330, 330 by 400. Nice. Yeah, I would love to. There's part of me that would love to put one on of some sort on my 0G, but not this 0G, because this is the pro size. So I think this is like 275 by 275 by the height. But on my 0G Mercury 1 modified Ender 5 Plus, which is 370, 370, I think 420 is the Z height. Um, so having some type of MMU on that, I could do massive multicolor things. But as it stands, I've had helmets that I've run on that full size single print helmets, like Conker's back here, my Space Marine, that was like a 4-day print. So if I did that with all of the accent pieces as color changing, that would be, so color changing just makes it that much longer, right? So even with the AMS, the more colors you do take longer, right? So bigger prints just take longer. I was chatting with somebody on my one of my local chat servers at work, and they were talking about wanting to build one of Ivan Miranda's printers. You know, the meter cube printer. And I'm like, that's great, but you have to run. You don't have to, but you would really want to be running like a 1 point something millimeter nozzle and using 3 millimeter filament versus, or 285 3 millimeter filament versus, you're not going to run a zero point 0.4 nozzle and a 1.75 filament on a meter by meter by meter print volume print. It just, it's great volume, but you're going to you'll be spending a week or more on a print, depending on how dense it is, right? So keep that in mind. And then also a printer like that, you're not going to enclose that. Not without, well, one, your heated bed's going to be massive. So that's definitely a mains heated bed. It's going to take a while to heat up. If you're planning on enclosing it and running hot materials, that is a 3 cubic meter volume. You're not going to heat that up and keep it consistent just by the hot end in the bed. You're going to have to do additional heating for chamber heating, which means additional power, which means you're running a lot of electricity to run one of those. It's got to be a business thing where you're making money and it makes business sense. Us, I doubt if it's going to be anything specific for us. Exactly. Exactly. And heaven forbid if you put it into, like, I'll say a typical warehouse style building where it's concrete floors and steel frame, a steel building, you better have good insulation on that building. It better be airtight because any air or any heat that's radiating off that's going to heat that building up, one, but also if it's sitting directly on the ground, any cool or any coldness that's seeping in from that concrete is going to get right into the bottom of that printer as well. Yeah, you'd have to figure that one out. But yeah, there's other factors that go in place, and moving it, right? Moving it's going to take a bit as well. And I can't remember on that printer if he was using NEMA 23 or NEMA 37 motors on it. I think it was all Duet electronics. I think it was running NEMA 23s. But he also had it wasn't even 9mm belt. I want to say it was like 12mm belt on those. I mean, they were chunky boys. And I'd love to build one just to build it, right? Just to have cool things to build, but can't justify it. Speaking of cool things to build, like I said, we're building the 350 Trident, which is bigger than all of my other Vorons back here. We're going to be putting IRCFA on a couple of things. We're going to rebuild TradRack, and TradRack is going to go. I'm seriously thinking of hanging TradRack on the side over here. And then moving this to the side, so whatever is, the filament for TradRack would be coming up from the side into TradRack, right? The 01, we're going to rebuild that as a 02. I've already got the upgrade parts for that. I need to print out all the new parts. We may change the color scheme on Baby Blue when we do it. We'll see. And we have a LDO Millennium Mill Milo V1.5 with VFD and spindle on order through KB3D. So we will have one of those builds coming soon as well. So I don't believe that's going to get here before Rocky Mountain Rep Rat Fest. If it does, at most it would be an unboxing, and we will not start that until we get back from Rocky Mountain Rep Rat. Guaranteed. Hey, Pez, how are you doing, dear? Hope you are doing well. I really, 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 really need to start catching some of your streams again. The last couple of days, I've just been like drug. I've been drug out and haven't been staying up that late to catch your streams. But I'm starting to get back into things. My sleep schedule's fixed again, so I will get on and hang out in your stream some tonight. Like I said, today was just an impromptu stream. So with that, thank you, thank you, thank you, everybody, for being here. Let's see who is online that we can raid out to. We've got Maker Deck, the Jane. Oh, my sister from another Mister's on. So that is a given. Let's get set up to go and raid Westery One, my sister from another Mister. And thank you all so much for being here with me tonight. Like I said, this is an impromptu stream just to get a couple of things done on Blackbox so we can get the bed fully mounted and be able to move it around without the chance of things going bad. We will be working on IRCFA tomorrow night. So I will hope to see everybody here tomorrow night for the regularly scheduled stream. And we should hopefully get IRCFA and Cottontail put together, physically built, and get into some wiring. And then we can finish up wiring on Thursday night and then start figuring out by then how to get it mounted on the printer. So thanks so much, everybody, for being here. And I will see you tomorrow night. Let's go over and give Westery One. So thanks, everybody. Have a good one. Bye-bye.